Welcome back. Final moments now on the program Business Morning, coming to you from the nation's capital, Abuja. We're talking to the chairman, Nigeria Economic Summit Group, Bukakeri, who is still here with me in the studio as we focus on the theme of this year's Nigeria Economic Summit. It is the 21st Nigeria Economic Summit, and it has as its theme, tough choices, achieving competitiveness, inclusive growth, and sustainability. Mr. Kerry, thank you so much for sticking around with me. So looking at the theme now, how significant is this year's summit?
Well, the significance is, one, the fact that the prior two summits, we pick one industry and basically deep dive into that aspect. So even our breakout sessions and all of that is specific to that industry. We had education and agriculture. This time around, with the change in government that we've seen and the mantra of the incoming party's outlook and the manifesto, we felt that we need to talk about broader issues of, around the economy. Now, when you talk about the economy, there are some things that one can say are positives, right? The largest GDP in Africa, the growth rate that we have seen in the past, etc., etc. But when you look at the overall totality of it and the impact it has on the average citizen, we feel that there is a lot that needs to be done. And therefore, some tough choices have to be made. And how is that? Are we competitive? The answer is that globally speaking, we are not. Now, somebody said something about the 3 C's, right? Commodities, cash, and creativity. Last week. And I like those adages. Nigeria had the opportunity of building up a huge cash reserve by virtue of the oil prices. We don't necessarily have that as much today, but there is still some. Commodities, we have been dependent on a single commodity, and the commodity prices are not looking very rosy down the road. But creativity is what a nation can actually lean on and transform itself and become an entirely different sort of a country. And creativity means that you have to give the opportunity of investing in the basic fundamental thing, which is education. And I said, show me the percentage of your secondary school enrollment today, and I can predict whether that country is going to be prosperous 20 years down the road or not by virtue of how many kids that are attending secondary school. 28%, by the way, is the threshold. Above 28%, you're fine. Below 28%, you've not been. Nigeria in 1971 was below. Nigeria in 1991 was below. Today, it is above. So there is a prospect there for the long-term investor. Now, the other thing is that what are we doing that is not encouraging others to come to our economy and invest? I'm not even talking about portfolio investors. Portfolio investors come and go, depending on the opportunities. But investors that come in and invest for the long term. Now, you need to have some of the fundamental infrastructures right. Road, rail network, ease of doing business, registration, the laws that favor businesses, labor laws, etc.
And good corporate governance.
Good corporate governance and transparency. And transparency works both ways. It's not just the public sector that must be transparent. Even within the private sector, the way we conduct ourselves and do business, we have to do it in ethical and transparent manner. So that's where the governance come in. Even privatization, if government is privatizing an entity, it should actually say that the 20% or the 25% that they are retaining, they should list it. Because in the process, government will win 2 ways. One is that that company would now become more transparent because it will be doing quarterly reporting, etc., a proper board, and guess what? The tax collection would become easier because the spotlight is now on that company. So down the road, it can only assist. Now, sustainability is another key. Sustainability, SDG, which is something that the United Nations have been talking about fairly recently, is a replacement of MDGs. I think the major mistake that had happened with MDGs is that it had been a top-down approach. United Nations, national government, and that's it. Whereas SDGs require the attention of small private entities to be involved. So the private sector, in collaboration with the public sectors, both at national and global levels, would then begin to drive SDG programs. And that would mean that companies cannot just come and decimate a locality, whether they're looking for solid minerals or cutting trees or whatever, and just walk away. It should be done in a very sustainable manner.
Mr. Carey, you're talking so much about competitiveness, and that's good. Basically, I feel that's the focus for this summit, even though we have inclusive growth and sustainability all about it. Now, it's not like the private sector is not aware of how to be competitive or how to get their businesses to that level. It's not even like the public sector is not aware either. But why is it that we do not have the will to follow through when we identify such issues? Because it's talk that has constantly come up. We know we need to be more competitive. We need to place ourselves in this rank. This is how far we should go.
Correct.
But everybody just goes on and on about talking, but never follows through. Yes, some people might have the political will to implement, but that really following through till the end.
The follow-through and the political will are key ingredients for any successful any country to be successful, competitively speaking. And also you look for the competitive advantages that the particular country, in our case, we can actually have that discussion so that an extra effort can be put on those areas of competitive advantage. Demographics dividend is something that most people talk about. The fact that we are such a large population is positive, right? Can be positive. But at the same time, based on just the initial discussion I made about secondary school enrollment, if you make that mistake of not properly educating that young and rising population, then 15, 20 years down the road, you have violence erupting everywhere. You would have huge security issues. So it's actually a situation where the political will for implementation must be there. But then we also must share with our leaders the fact that, look, we are not playing according to the promises made. And we have to raise that game. I mean, and constantly on the sidelines, we have to cheer and bully and push like a coach or a cheerleader to ensure that that promise is fulfilled.
Well, how can, we ensure that that promise is fulfilled? Because you see, outside our clients, situations where you make promises and you can't fulfill your promise, you actually leave your office, you step down.
You leave your office.
So
yes.
at what point, at what point do you think we're ever going to get to that stage where, you can't fulfill your promise, and yes, you still have, like 3 years more to stay in office, but just do the honorable thing and step down because you can't fulfill it and let somebody else take up the job?
The noble and honorable thing is always to say that I'm incompetent and I can't do the job, and therefore I should step aside so that someone can carry on. And in a political economy or in a democracy, there is also a chance that the board of directors also have that, or rather the shareholders have that stronger power of kicking you out. Unfortunately, that takes a period of 4 years. By that I mean they could vote you out as well.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Carey, for joining me on the program. And of course, we look forward to tomorrow when the summit will start. It's happening here in the nation's capital, and I'm sure we're going to see you very, very much around.
Thank you.
Well, Bukka Carey is the chairman of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, joining me there to talk more about the theme for this year's summit, and of course focusing on key sectors of the economy as well. The nation's capital is where all eyes will be starting from tomorrow, when the 21st Nigeria Economic Summit will begin, and of course when the ministerial nominees will be screened as well. So keep your eye on Channels Television, and we'll bring you the news as it breaks. But that's it on Business Morning for today. Many thanks for spending time with us. Have a profitable day.